Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will present an introduction to the Gemara Masechta Shabbos on Daf Vavam Nebeis and Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. Let's begin. So there are two pieces of background information that we're going to present here in order to properly learn the next piece of Gemara. So the first thing is the din that Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid is Tamei and Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaRabim is Tahor. What that din basically is, if a person entered the area in complete seclusion, there was nobody else there, and there's something that's Tamei there, and he's not sure, did he become Tamei or not? We say Safek Tamei B'Rishus HaYachid, there's a Safek of Tumah in the area of the Yachid where he's alone, he's considered Tamei. However, if there's even one other person there, then the din is Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaRabim Tar. This is considered a Rishus HaRabim, and he is Tar. So if we notice over here that the terms Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim are not similar to Shabbos at all. Rather, Rishus HaYachid means an area of complete isolation and seclusion. That person is the only person there. Rishus HaRabim is even if there's one other person there, it's considered a Rishus HaRabim. So what we're going to present here is the source for this din, and we'll see in the source that the definition of the Rishus HaYachid is an area of complete seclusion, and Rishus HaRabim means if it's not completely secluded. So by Seita, the Torah teaches that only if a woman secluded herself with the man her husband told her not to, is it a case of Seita. The case of Seita is if a husband warned his wife not to seclude herself with a certain individual, and the woman did not listen, and she secluded herself with that man, and two witnesses observed this, the din is that the woman is now usher to her husband. They're not allowed to remain married. The only way they could stay married is if she agrees to drink the Seita waters, and they prove that she's innocent, then she can remain married to her husband. So that's what it says by Seita. When discussing the status of the Seita, the Torah uses the term Tamei. The Torah says we're not sure whether she became Tamei or she didn't become Tamei. When the Torah speaks about it, it doesn't say whether she's usher to her husband or not, whether she did an Aveira or not. It uses the term Tumah. And from here we learn out to all matters of Tumah. What we learn is as follows. Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid is Tamei. Just like by the woman, when she was completely secluded with that man, we're not sure whether she did an Aveira or not. We say she's considered to have done an Aveira, she cannot remain married to her husband. The same thing is true if a person is completely secluded with an item of Tumah, and he's not sure whether he became Tamei or not, we say we consider him to be Tamei, and he is Tamei. And the way we connect these two things is because the Torah speaks about the Seita using the word Tamei. So we learn the teaching of Seita to apply to Tumah. And we also learn that Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaRabim is Tahor. Only when the woman was completely secluded with that man do we say she now becomes usher to her husband. If there was even one other man there, one other person there, she's not going to be usher to her husband. So we learn the same thing by all matters of Tumah. If the person is not sure if he became Tamei, but he's not in complete seclusion, he's unsure. Just like we're unsure about the woman, just like we say by her, she's not usher to her husband. The Torah does not say she is Tamei. So to the individual that was in the area of the Tumah, if there's anybody else there, he's not Tamei. So that's the first piece of information, which is the din that Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid is Tamei and Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaRabim is Tahor. We showed where we learned this from. We learned it from the Seita. Why we learned it from Seita? Because the Torah speaks to the Seita in terms of Tumah. And we also understand now that when we use the word Rishus HaYachid, it's not used in the context of Shabbos, but rather an area of complete seclusion and isolation, whereas Rishus HaRabim means if there's anybody else there. So this is the first piece of background information. The second piece of background information is what is a karfif and what is the din by a karfif. So a karfif is an enclosed area that is larger than 2 beis sah, which is larger than 5,000 squared amas. So we have a large area and it's surrounded by walls. The din by a karfif is as follows. The din is that if it was walled in as part of a house's use, then it has the full status of a Rishus HaYachid. A karfif is really a Rishus HaYachid. It's larger than 4 by 4 tefachim, and there are walls surrounding it, and the walls are higher than 10 tefachim. So it's really a Rishus HaYachid. Now, if this area was enclosed for the purpose of a residence, there's a house there, then it has the din of the Rishus HaYachid as well in every regard, in every way, in every din. It's a regular, full, complete, total Rishus HaYachid, and we treat it as a Rishus HaYachid. However, if it wasn't enclosed for residential use, then, although it is a Rishus HaYachid, like we explained, it has the requirements of a Rishus HaYachid, nevertheless, one cannot carry in it more than 4 amas. If the area was just built, the walls are just built around an open area, and it wasn't for residential use, since it's such a large area, larger than 5,000 squared amas, it looks like a Rishus HaRabim, and therefore the Chacham made Gzera that a person cannot carry in it more than 4 amas, just like he can carry more than 4 amas in a Rishus HaRabim. So it still is a Rishus HaYachid. However, Midrabanan, we will treat it also as a Rishus HaRabim. We'll give the chumrah of a Rishus HaRabim that a person cannot carry in it more than 4 amas. So these are basically the two pieces of information, of background information, that are helpful to know before learning the next piece of Gemara. Number one, the din of Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid Tamei, Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaRabim is Tahor. What's the definition of a Rishus HaYachid in this regard? What's the definition of the Rishus HaRabim? As well as what's the source of this? And the second piece of information was what is a karfif and what is a din by a karfif. And with this in place, we can now move on to the next piece of Gemara.